Have you ever wondered if silence can speak volumes? Sometimes, the most powerful way to reclaim yourself is by stopping the chase, by letting go of relationships that no longer serve you. If you want to understand why silence matters so much, don't miss this video, inspired by Keanu Reeves' wisdom. Sometimes, when you stop trying to reach out to a man, something powerful begins to unfold. Not just within him, but across the entire relationship. Silence isn't just an absence of words. It's a force, an undeniable presence that speaks louder than any conversation ever could. In those moments, the real work begins for him, for you, and for the very nature of the situation. When you cease all attempts to communicate, when there are no more calls, texts, or actions aimed at keeping the relationship on track, a strange thing starts to happen in his mind. A void begins to spread. He can no longer rely on your presence like he used to, and gradually, this silence forces him to confront questions within himself. Why isn't she calling anymore? Why haven't I heard from her? These questions linger in his mind, even if at first he doesn't fully acknowledge them. Over time, your absence becomes a resounding echo he cannot ignore. This absence, this silence, is something not everyone can face easily, especially for men who often thrive on certainty, control, and clarity in relationships. They want to know where things stand, and when silence comes, all of that seems to vanish. Sometimes, the man might deny it, claiming that the silence means nothing. But no matter how he reacts, no one can escape the power of silence. It's like a mirror, forcing him to face himself, his actions, his emotions, and sometimes that's not a pleasant picture. That stillness is the moment he has the chance to reflect, and as we've seen in many stories, reflection is a mighty force. Once he starts to realize, he might come to understand that he's taken you for granted, that he hasn't appreciated the laughter, the tenderness you brought. Or perhaps, and this is equally important, he realizes that he hasn't invested in the relationship the way he thought he had. Silence is the condition for truth to emerge, whether that truth is painful or not. However, you need to understand that this is not just about him. It's about you too. That silence isn't the end. It's an opportunity for both of you to understand the relationship better, to understand yourselves, and to realize what you truly deserve. Much like a gift, not only for him, but for yourself. Silence gives you the chance to breathe, to step back, and reevaluate your own worth. Because when you stop reaching out, you're not just creating space for him. You're granting yourself the right to stop proving your value every single day. You might wonder, how will he react to this silence? And his reaction will be the answer to everything you need to know about where he stands in your life. If he truly values you, if he truly understands your place in his life, this silence will make him wake up, stir him into action, and seek to reconnect. He will feel your absence, and in his heart, a desire will rise, a longing to make things right, to repair the relationship. But if he doesn't do that, if he remains distant, indifferent, unchanged, then you will learn something crucial. That silence isn't a weapon, it's a test. It's your way of saying, I know my worth, and I won't chase what's not meant for me. It's not a trick nor a game. It's clarity, a way for the truth to reveal itself, even if that truth is hard to hear. And here's something I'm certain of. When you stop chasing, when you stop trying to fill the silence with noise, you'll discover who's truly willing to walk beside you, who is really ready to meet you where you stand. That's a powerful realization because you no longer have to guess, hope, or wait. You stand firm, allowing the universe or him to show you where you belong in his life. And that's not just courage. It's necessary for your growth, necessary for your peace of mind, and necessary for your future. Because the right person, the one who truly values you, won't let that silence last for long. So, when you sit with stillness, when you hold your ground, remember this. The reaction you get, or don't get, isn't a measure of your worth. It's a reflection of his readiness, his priorities, and his feelings. Sometimes the best thing you can do for both yourself and him is to let silence speak. Let it reveal the truth. Let it free you. When we talk about communication, we often think of words, texts, calls, and exchanges back and forth. But in reality, the strongest communication often happens in the spaces between words, in what's left unsaid, in the moments of silence we create. When you stop trying to reach out, when you step back, something profound happens. The power in that relationship shifts. It gets realigned, and everything that has been hidden beneath the surface starts to surface. One thing is certain. In relationships, it's not always a battle for power. Relationships are not meant for anyone to fight anyone else, nor is it about who holds the upper hand. But don't pretend that power dynamics don't matter, because they do. Every time you take the lead, every time you initiate contact. In those moments, you're giving him a piece of yourself, your time, your energy, your vulnerability. But when those efforts go unanswered, when you receive indifference or shallow responses, that's when the imbalance creeps in. When you're always the one making the effort to communicate, it starts to feel like you're chasing something, like you're the one holding the connection together, carrying the weight of the relationship. It drains you, exhausts you, and over time, you begin to wonder if you're worth what you're giving. But then, one day you decide to stop. You decide that you can't carry this alone anymore. And in that moment, everything changes. The world shifts, and the ball is now in his court. That's when the real test begins. When you stop trying, you will have to decide what this relationship means to him. He'll have to ask himself if he's ready to share the load, to step up and rebuild what's been lost. This decision will reveal everything you need to know about him, about how he really feels. That silent period is when he has to face himself, to evaluate what he's contributed or failed to contribute to this relationship. Has he been taking you for granted, letting the days pass without acknowledging what you've done? Has he become too reliant on your willingness, on the fact that you're always the one reaching out, always there for him? Or has he genuinely invested in this relationship, responding to you with the energy and affection you truly deserve? The silence, the lack of response. This is where the truth begins to emerge. This is the moment when you realize whether he values you enough to fight for this relationship, whether he has enough resolve to show you that you're worthy. Because a man who truly values you, who understands your worth, will not let silence stretch on indefinitely. He will sense the change, the imbalance, and he will act to restore it. But if he doesn't, if the silence continues, if he remains indifferent, unchanged, unresponsive, then you've already learned something. You've learned your place in his life. And although that truth may hurt, it's one that you need to face. Because you deserve someone who doesn't leave you wondering, someone who won't let you carry the weight of the relationship on your own. What you need to understand is that when you take a step back, you're not playing games or try to manipulate someone's reaction. In fact, this is your way of reclaiming your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. It means you are saying, I cannot continue to invest in a relationship where I receive nothing in return. And that is not selfish. On the contrary, it is necessary. It's a healthy way of living. When you stop trying to contact him, you're also giving yourself the chance to reconnect with who you are, to remember your own value and your own worth without depending on his reactions, whether or not you receive any response. Because your value is not defined by your efforts in a relationship, nor by how someone else responds to your silence. Your value is something that exists within you, steady, unshakable. And the most beautiful thing is that when you stop chasing, when you stop trying to force the relationship, you create space for what truly matters to flourish. If he genuinely cares, if he truly values this relationship, he will step up, he will take the initiative, and show you he's ready to put in his part. But if he doesn't, then you've also created space for something better or someone more deserving to enter your life. When you stop, it's not just about changing the dynamics of the relationship. You're setting a new standard. You're saying, I deserve effort, respect, and care from others. And that's not just about power. It's about love, true love. True love will not leave you constantly guessing, will not make you feel like you're always the one chasing, always holding on, always doing everything. True love is about balance, about giving and receiving, about partnership, not one-sided. So, when you step back, when you stop trying, you're creating an opportunity for both of you to discover what's real. You're creating space for clarity, for truth, and for growth. And that is one of the most powerful things you can do, not just for the relationship, but for yourself. Because in the end, the right person for you won't just respond to your silence. They will cherish it. They will step forward to meet you in the very space you've created. They do this not because you force them, but because they genuinely want to, because they see your worth and are willing to meet you on equal ground. That is the love you deserve, and anything less is not worth sacrificing for. When you decide to stop, when you stop trying to contact him, something intangible yet deeply profound begins to happen. It's like every loud sound from the usual conversations slowly fades away, leaving a quiet space where deeper truths can emerge. In that silence, he is forced to face himself, his own thoughts, his own emotions. And for some, this can be a challenging place, a place where they must confront things they've been avoiding for a long time. It is in this space that self-reflection begins to take root. Whether he's aware of it or not, this process is slowly peeling back the layers of emotion, revealing things that were once hidden. You see, men often live to a relentless rhythm: work, goals, distractions. The constant pace of life makes it easy to overlook things that are hard to face, like unresolved feelings, unanswered questions. These things only truly surface when he pauses long enough to feel, to listen to himself. When you stop trying to reach out, you disrupt that rhythm. You create a moment of stillness, a pause that forces him to look inward. At first, he may not realize it. Perhaps a few days will pass before he notices that something's wrong. Your absence, no texts, no familiar voice, no presence. It's not just silence. It's a space that he can no longer ignore. And in that space, his mind starts to wander. He begins to ask himself questions that he may have never asked before. Why hasn't she reached out? Did I do something wrong? Do I really miss her? And whether he likes it or not, these questions will lead him to a fork in the road where he must face the truth about his own feelings. Let me tell you something. A man's self-reflection is not always loud, not always dramatic. It's quiet. It happens in the moments he least expects, in the car, lying in bed at night, or when he's walking through his day. It's in these quiet moments that your absence slowly seeps into his mind, making him think about what he's overlooked, the kindness, the understanding, the unwavering presence you gave him. And if he's honest with himself, he may feel a pang of regret. But self-reflection is not just about missing someone. It's about understanding why he pulled away, why he wasn't present the way he should have been. Why did he let things get this far? These questions are not easy to answer, and not every man is ready to face them. Some will try to distract themselves, burying those thoughts under work or external distractions. When you stop trying to reach out, no longer running after ambiguous relationships, no longer getting lost in meaningless conversations, you will notice that no matter how hard you try, the process of self-reflection cannot be avoided. It stays with him. It cannot be escaped, no matter where he tries to run. For some men, it's a transformative process. They may realize important things, truths they've never faced before. Maybe he'll realize he's been suppressing emotions because he feared the hurt. Or maybe he'll see that he's kept his distance because he's been too wrapped up in himself, forgetting that a real relationship requires sharing, requires a two-way connection. Perhaps he'll come to understand that he truly values you and doesn't want to lose you. However, the truth is, not everyone can reach that point. Self-reflection is a difficult process, and not everyone has the courage to face the insecurity within themselves. Some will find ways to avoid it, convincing themselves that the silence doesn't bother them, that they're better off without that connection. But it is at this moment that you will see the clarity you need. This is the point where you realize something important. If he is not willing to look inside, to face his own emotions, and to do the necessary work to build a relationship, then simply put, he is not ready, not for you, and not for what you bring into his life. Your silence, whether he acknowledges it or not, is actually a mirror. It doesn't just show him how he feels about you, but also offers him a chance to reflect on himself. Is he someone who is ready to grow, to face his fears, and to take responsibility when necessary? Or is he someone who constantly avoids, who seeks to escape from the painful truths? One important thing you must understand is that his self-questioning, or lack thereof, is not your responsibility. You're not here to fix him, to heal him, or to make him see your worth. That is his job. Your silence is a gift, not a punishment. It is an opportunity for him to either step up or step away. And no matter the outcome, you win. Because the man who is truly meant for you will use that time to reflect, to catch up with you, and to prove that he is ready for what you deserve. But if not, his silence will speak louder than any words could. So, don't be afraid to give him space to reflect, to face himself, and don't be afraid of what you may learn from this process. Because in the end, however the truth may unfold, it is still a gift. And you are the most precious thing. When you stop trying to reach out, you're not just creating physical space. You're also creating a different kind of space where truths can emerge clearly. Emotional distance. I want to share something with you about that distance. It has a special way of making everything clear, not only to him, but to you as well. It is in that space where clarity begins to take form, where truth, though harsh and unfiltered, gradually rises to the surface. This process, in some ways, is part of the healing journey. However, while truth can bring relief, facing it is never easy, especially when it forces you to confront the difference between needing space and becoming emotionally distant. Emotional distance holds a unique power. It can open up an opportunity for reflection and growth, but it can also serve as a reminder of a deep void, a lack of real connection that has perhaps existed in this relationship for some time. When you decide to step back, you're giving him a chance to feel life without you in it, even if only for a short while. And in that space, he must ask himself some difficult questions. Do I feel her absence? Do I miss the feeling she brought? Or do I feel relieved by her absence? Only he can answer those questions, and his answers, whether through action or silence, will reveal everything you need to know. Because when a man truly values you, emotional distance is not freedom. On the contrary, it feels like loss, like something is missing, as if his rhythm of life has been slightly off. That distance will remind him of everything you brought into his world, your light, your energy, your ever-present presence. And if he truly cares, if he is truly invested in this relationship, he will want to close that distance. He will want to bridge it not just with words, but with action. But if he feels nothing, if he seems unaffected, uninterested, or even indifferent, that is when you will realize the truth. Emotional distance does not create separation. It simply reveals the truth, showing you where you truly stand in his heart and in his priorities. And though it may be painful, you must accept that sometimes the distance only points out that the relationship you thought was deeply connected was, in fact, only surface level. So, let's distinguish between space and emotional distance. Space is necessary and healthy. It allows both people in a relationship to breathe, reflect, and regenerate themselves. Space is for both individuals to grow, yet still maintain a connection. Whereas emotional distance is something entirely different. It is when one person in the relationship no longer participates, no longer emotionally shows up, and that is the sign of withdrawal. When a person's heart, mind, and attention are no longer invested in the relationship, even though their body remains present, that is when the connection starts to crack. And when you stop trying to reach out to him, it is not just about giving him space, it is about challenging the depth of this relationship. A man who truly cares will not let that distance last too long. He will not sit in silence and allow it to become a permanent void. He will feel the pull, the need to reconnect, to bridge that gap. And this will not be because of pressure or obligation, but because of love. Because when you love someone, you do not let any gap, whether physical or emotional, grow larger without intervening. However, equally important is that while he's trying to figure out where he stands in the relationship, you must do the same for yourself. The space you create is not just for him to reflect, but for you to reflect as well. Use that time to confront the difficult questions you may have been avoiding. Am I holding on to something unworthy? Am I trying to force a connection that is not truly mutual? Am I giving everything and receiving nothing in return? The answers may not be comfortable, but they are necessary. Because when you stop trying, when you let emotional distance settle, you are not just learning about him, but also about yourself. You will gain a clearer understanding of what you truly want, need, and deserve. And I want to say this to you. You deserve more than someone who only notices your silence when it has grown too loud. You deserve someone who will not let silence last too long from the start. Someone who values your presence, your love, your effort so much that when distance arises, he will immediately try to close it. Because love is not convenience, it is commitment. True love is presence, is standing together even when it is hard, even when it requires effort. So, if the emotional distance you create shows that he is not ready or cannot meet you there, do not see it as a loss. See it as a gift, because it is better to know that truth in the silence, rather than continue to cling to something that does not truly exist. But if he steps up, if he uses that distance to reflect, to grow, and to return stronger, then you will know that he sees your value, cherishes what you bring, and is ready to work to maintain this relationship. And that is the kind of love, the kind of connection you deserve to hold on to. Because true love, genuine love, never develops in a noise. Love doesn't always grow in loud, chaotic moments. It flourishes in the quiet, in the space where distance gradually forms. It's in these moments that you'll see who is truly willing to stay with you, even when you stop reaching out. When you stop trying to contact him, you're not simply giving him space. You're subtly placing a challenge before this relationship. What will you do when no one is trying anymore? This isn't a demand, nor is it a confrontation. It's just you stepping back, retracting your energy, your efforts, and your presence. And when you step back, it leaves him with an important question. Am I willing to step up and do something, or will I let everything slip away? Every relationship has its rhythm, a back and forth exchange that keeps the connection alive. When one person is always the initiator, always the one reaching out, always the one putting in the effort, that rhythm is disrupted. It becomes skewed, unbalanced. But when you stop trying, you create an opportunity for both sides to reflect. It forces one person to ask themselves if they're willing to meet you halfway, or if they'll let the relationship slowly fade into silence. For a man, this silence can be a powerful signal, a wake-up call that forces him to confront the reality of his actions or his indifference. He begins to realize that the connection he relies on isn't a given, that your efforts aren't limitless, and that your presence isn't something he can take for granted. This is a moment of truth, one that may make him uncomfortable, even uneasy, but it's a moment that's desperately needed. Love, respect, and commitment are not about gliding smoothly without effort. They require standing firm, showing up, even when it demands tremendous effort. And of course, facing responsibility isn't always easy, especially for some men. It's like a mirror reflecting things they don't want to see, a mirror that forces them to face questions they may not be ready to answer. Have I really shown her that I care? Am I putting in the effort she deserves? Have I become the man I want to be in this relationship? These questions don't just scratch the surface, they get to the core. They will show whether he's truly invested in the relationship or just going through the motions. But there's something important you need to understand about responsibility. It doesn't just expose weaknesses, it offers an opportunity for growth. For a man willing to look at himself, admit mistakes, and take responsibility, this silence could be a turning point. It could propel him to step up, change, and become better, not just for you, but for himself as well. However, responsibility is also a filter. Not everyone will face this challenge. Some will choose to avoid the hard truths, make excuses for their lack of effort, and stay within their comfort zone. And as painful as it may be to recognize, this is a gift in disguise. Because the man who can't step up when silence calls his name, the one who refuses to take responsibility for his part in the relationship, is not the one ready for the love you bring. When you stop trying, you're not just creating space for him to think. You're also creating a moment of clarity for yourself. You're not just asking him to take responsibility. You need to ask yourself the hard questions. Have I been sacrificing too much without asking for anything in return? Have I been ignoring signs that this relationship isn't as solid as I want it to be? Am I accepting things I don't deserve? These questions aren't easy, but they're necessary because responsibility isn't one-sided. It's about awareness of your own worth, your boundaries, and the needs you deserve to have met. Love isn't just about giving. It's also about receiving, about mutual effort, about respect and care for each other. When that balance is lost, don't hesitate to step back. Don't be afraid to let silence speak for you. A man who truly values you, who truly cares for you, will not let the silence last too long. He will sense the shift, recognize what's at stake, and choose to step up, to show through action, not perfection, that he's willing to work to meet you where you are, to become the partner you deserve. But if he doesn't do that, if he lets the silence stretch on, if he avoids responsibility altogether, that's the answer you need to acknowledge, even though it's not the truth you were hoping for. And while this may hurt, it's a gift because it frees you from holding on to someone who isn't ready, who isn't willing, who doesn't have the capacity to give you what you need. In the end, stepping back, stopping the effort, is not a punishment, it's the truth. It's creating space for responsibility to develop, for action to replace words, for real motivation in the relationship to come to light. And that's not just about him. It's about you, about knowing how to honor yourself, to demand more, to expect better, and to set a higher standard for yourself and for both of you. Because real love, long-lasting and meaningful love, never fears responsibility. It accepts and grows because of it. And when you stop trying, when you let silence speak for you, you create space for that love to either step forward or reveal itself to be something of lesser value. And it's at that moment that the true power is in your hands. When you stop trying to reach out to him, you reclaim something incredibly valuable: your energy, your peace of mind, and your sense of self. It's so easy to lose these things when you're always reaching out, always giving, always trying to hold on to something that seems impossible to complete. But the moment you stop, the moment you let go of that effort, you shift all your attention to where it belongs, to yourself. That's freedom, a kind of release, because so many times we forget ourselves while trying to build up someone else. We give and give, thinking that this effort will make them realize our worth, that this persistence will make them stay, that our love will be enough to fill the gaps they won't cross. But love shouldn't deplete you. Love should nourish you, not drain you. When you step back, when you stop reaching for someone who won't come close to you, you're not just giving him space, you're giving yourself space to breathe, space to think, space to remember who you are outside of this relationship. And that's the most important thing, because no matter how much you love someone, no matter how you feel, you should never lose yourself in the process of loving them. That silence, that stillness, may make you uncomfortable at first. It may feel like a void, as if something is missing. And yes, something is missing: the noise, the back and forth, the efforts you put in day after day. But what remains in that space is something incredibly valuable: the opportunity to reconnect with yourself. In that quiet, you'll hear your own thoughts again. You'll feel your own emotions, unaffected by the actions or shortcomings of others. You'll begin to see things more clearly. You'll recognize patterns, dynamics, how you've shown up in the relationship. And though it's not always easy to see, what you need, what you deserve, has always been right in front of you. You don't have to build walls around your heart, nor do you need to shut yourself off to protect yourself from pain. Sometimes reclaiming your energy isn't about pushing others away, but rather about setting boundaries, understanding that your time, love, and effort are invaluable, and not everyone is worthy of them. Love is a two-way street. If someone isn't willing to meet you halfway, then perhaps you're better off walking your own path. When you choose to stop chasing someone who isn't chasing you, you're not just protecting yourself. You're creating space for better things to come into your life. You start attracting peace, wisdom, and people and opportunities that align with your values. When you know your own worth and refuse to settle for less, the world responds to that energy. But this is not just about attracting the good things. It's also about creating new possibilities for yourself. When you no longer pour your energy into someone who doesn't reciprocate, you can invest that energy back into yourself, into your dreams, your passions, and your personal growth. You can invest in things that make you shine, things that remind you of your own strength and beauty. Make no mistake, reclaiming your energy doesn't mean you don't care or that you're cold or indifferent. It's a choice to prioritize yourself, to honor your own needs, and to protect the peace within you. This isn't weakness, this is strength. This process doesn't just change the way you see others, it changes the way you see yourself. You'll realize that you've been carrying too much, giving too much, trying to keep everything together when you no longer have the strength to do so. And when you let go, when you allow yourself to rest and recover, you'll discover a strength within you that you never knew you had. Because reclaiming your energy isn't just about stepping away from something. It's about moving towards something greater. It's stepping into a version of yourself that's not based on how much you've given to others, but on how much you've given to yourself. This is the moment you accept the truth, that you are whole, that you are enough, and that you don't need anyone else to fill the emptiness within. When you reach this state, when you truly reclaim your energy, you'll realize that silence isn't emptiness. It's a space full of possibilities, full of potential, full of opportunities you've created for yourself. If you're in that moment right now, if you've stopped running after someone who isn't giving anything back, remember this: you haven't lost. You are winning. You are reclaiming what was always yours: your power, your peace, and your sense of self-worth. And that is the most beautiful, powerful, and courageous thing you can do for yourself. Like the stories we see in inspiring movies, such as Elizabeth Bennet in Pride and Prejudice, when she decides to step away from a relationship that doesn't bring her happiness and, in doing so, discovers her own inner strength. The act of stopping, of not chasing after what doesn't serve you, is a powerful way to affirm your independence and freedom. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. The lesson we've just shared about the power of silence and how to reclaim your self-worth is not only a reminder, but also a call to action for you to remember. You deserve authentic relationships, where respect and effort are mutual exchanges. Never forget, when you stop and look back, that's when you create space for your own growth and for the peace in your soul. If this story resonates with you, don't hesitate to share it with others so we can spread this message together. Leave your story in the comments below the video because we would love to hear from you and learn from you. And if you have any issues or questions you'd like answered, let us know. We are always ready to create videos that help you overcome challenges in life. Don't forget to hit like, share, and comment to share your perspective. And if you want to continue receiving valuable content like this, make sure to subscribe. Thank you for your continued support. Wishing you a wonderful day, and remember, sometimes silence is the answer to the most important things in life.